Hey there, this is Therese Skelly, and I'm so excited that you are going to be listening to an episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. Do you like those two words? Fiercely Brilliant. My hypothesis is that you are here for a reason. We all are. Our souls have led us on journeys that have very often taken some twists and turns, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's struggle and there's loss and there's challenge, and in the middle of that, there's always a way out. And it's those times that often lead us into our great life and work. So you're going to hear stories in these episodes of myself and other beautiful people that share the journey. They share how they got to the place where they're standing, working in their brilliance, and being the powerful leaders that they are. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Hi, this is another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast, and I'm so delighted today. Oh, gang, you're going to have so much yumminess from this episode. My beautiful guest, Anjel Hartwell. Anjel and I have been colleagues for, we were figuring like lots of years, like 13 years or so. We were trying to figure out, how did we come to be? And we followed each other. And I finally am like, I would love you to be on my show because Anjel has an amazing story. Like this woman, wow, I've seen her reinvent herself over and over and over, and she's just shined so brightly. She is just a beacon of wisdom and cool, fun, joy, all the words, right? So Anjel, welcome so much. Welcome. And I'm really delighted that you're here.
Therese, it is my pleasure to be here. And I love coming around the spiral again and having a direct connection with you and being here on this show. I'm just really grateful. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So tell us today what you do and what you love about it.
Well, today I call myself a consultant and I'm hired by what I term the vanguard of the creative age. And those are the people who are the change agents, the thought leaders, the coaches, consultants, artists, authors, speakers, who are really here to activate the evolution of consciousness on the planet in whatever field of expertise they live in. And most of the work that I do is really help them to align with the wealth that is within them. And I help them to take that wealth of wisdom and learn how to communicate it in a way that allows them to convert it into wealth in the form of, at this point, I'm helping people to get to their 5-figure payday. As and as most of my people are also would call themselves a presenter. They could be a podcaster or speaker, but they're really here to be a messenger and to monetize that message at the maximum amount possible in order to create a legacy. The reason for the money is to create the structures that will allow this message that they have and this body of work that they create with me to actually live on even after they have passed.
Beautiful. Oof, that is a worthy thing to be up to. That is magnificent. So I've known you a long time and I know your story with wealth and a little bit of your journey. So where do you want to start with that? Because you have been the embodiment of what you're talking about, right? You have it, it goes away, you don't know how to manage it, like that whole thing. And so let's talk there. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, so I spent my first 20 years in the real estate industry, first 20 years of my career in the real estate industry. And at the end of that career, I was the national chairperson for my trade association. I was building with 2 partners, 51 single family houses, 56 apartments, and an office building. And then I had a spiritual awakening. And as a result of that spiritual awakening, I knew I needed to leave behind the real estate industry. And as a result of me exiting that, I also discovered all of these latent parts of myself that I didn't know existed. Okay. So my author came out and my artist came out and my performer came out and my healer came out. And like all of these latent parts of me came out. And a couple years after I left, so I gave myself a few years to just say, oh, look, I'm writing and I've made a book. I'm now an author. I gave myself permission to examine and find all of these parts of myself and give them air and light and allow them. And then in 2006, I ended up, by then I had my own art gallery and healing arts center. So I had leveraged the money from my house, from my divorce, from, my credit, my mortgage, equity line, and all of those things to create an art gallery and healing arts center. And that was a huge money pit. And simultaneously to that, within that same time frame in 2006, I opened the money pit, which was a huge lesson for me in over giving and under receiving and not really calculating what was reality. Like what was reality? Like I was wholeheartedly committed to this, but I did not have the practical pieces in place to actually make it make sense. And so I did a ceremony on the land that I had been part of this project. And I still was a part owner in the apartments. So I did this big ceremony on the land, and out of the blue, this is what happens when we do ceremony.
Right. Wink, wink.
Out of the blue, a buyer suddenly came to my partners, and I was a junior partner. So I had I had partnership on paper, but no say, really.
Okay. Got it.
Right. So I was definitely, kind of in the money, around the money, part of the money, but I had no power with the money.
Okay.
Right. And so then all of a sudden this ceremony happened, and out of the blue, a buyer showed up, and I ended up with a check for like almost $1 million.
Woohoo.
And that check, the first thing I did was I went to open 7 different bank accounts because what I knew was you needed to have, insurance, FDIC insurance. So you couldn't put more than $100,000 in any one bank. Okay. That was the extent of my knowing about how to manage that money. That money pretty rapidly disappeared. And so fast forward, a lot of that though was utilized to launch me eventually into, after I left the Art Gallery and Healing Arts Center, to launch me into serving people all over the world with my story of moving from, one place to another place, the story of transformation. And ultimately, I ended up having my own consulting business and serving people in the online space. And I did that for a dozen years. So it's been like 14 years now. But in 2017, after a huge falling out with my son that was very traumatic, and years of running on adrenaline. Like I was making money in my business. Yes, I had millions of dollars in revenue. Yes, I was investing like a crazy person. So it was like the money was coming in, it was going out. It was coming in, it was going out. It was coming in, it was going out. I had the experience of what I call the vibration of abundance, right? So there's scarcity, there's abundance, and then there's wealth. I believe there's 3 different vibrations. And so the abundance vibration is like in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. Like you can't deny that it's there. Like, oh yeah, look, there's, $1 million that just came in the bank account. Oh, there's $1 million that just left the bank account, right? You can't deny that it's there. There's abundance there, but abundance is difficult, if not impossible, to contain. Abundance is like the ocean.
Right, certainly.
It's like the ocean. Scarcity is like rain in the desert. Abundance is like the ocean. And so I was in this phase of abundance, and I came to a place where a big wave of abundance ultimately threw me up on the shores of scarcity. Wow. And I ended up in February of 2017, I made $7 that month in my business.
Oh my God. I didn't know this part of the story. Wow.
Yeah. And so I made $7, and I had made a commitment to myself that I needed to take time off at the end of 2016, after the rite of passage with my son which was very traumatic, I made a commitment to myself. I said, I just need to rest. I really just need to give myself space to just process the immensity of the trauma. And if my business doesn't support me through this, then, I need to be shown what needs to be done next. And so by my birthday in February of 2017, I had, and that was my date, right? Like by my birthday, my business will take care of me instead of me taking care.
And that was the $7 month. That was the
$7 month.
Okay, then information came in for you.
Yeah, it did. And that led me to burn my business to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah. And to rebirth. And one of the pieces of the rebirth was how I ended up in the podcasting space. One of the pieces of the rebirth was the guidance first came in that I could sell. So, I've been selling since I was 9 years old. I sold 763 boxes of Girl Scout cookies when I was 9, before you could put it online. You know what I mean? Before you were standing outside the grocery store, I was doing it smile and dial and knocking on doors. And in the real estate business, I actually sold the first 10 houses from dirt piles. Right. Yeah. And so I knew
you had it in you. Right.
I knew how to sell high ticket for sure. So that was the first thing that came through, was sell high ticket for other people. And so I did that for a little bit, but ultimately it became clear that I needed to come back to do my own work.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to, since then, really start to examine and study the elements of wealth and the elements of a wealthy life and the ways that we ward off wealth. And so that's been
talk about that, because it's one thing to have the conceptual, that you have to, this is what you have to do. But I think so much revolves around the being. And so what in you, Anjel, did you have to bump into, release, transform, that probably a lot of other people are going to be like, oh shit, I have the same thing, right? You talk about that.
Yeah. Well, so I think the first thing that I want to talk about, and this seems to be very ubiquitous, especially amongst women, is that one of the first ways that we ward off wealth is by worry.
Okay.
And I'll tell a little story about this. When I first left real estate, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. So I literally was living on faith for the first couple of years after I left my partners in real estate, and living on my credit cards, faith and credit cards and savings accounts. And,
that'll sustain you, right?
Right. And so when I left, I told my partner, he said, what are you going to be? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And it literally, what fell out of my mouth in that moment back in 2002 was, I'm going to be a crystal healer. And I didn't even know what the hell I was talking about, because I never had a crystal healing, never knew anything about crystal healing.
That's crazy.
That's what came out.
Yeah,
what came out. So I then proceeded to go get one. I thought that might be a good idea.
Yeah, that's an idea. Right. Yeah.
And then I took a training and got certified from the woman that I received my first crystal healing from. And so by 2004, I had been living on savings for a year and a half. I had my first night where I got to teach crystal healing at somebody's shop. And by now I'm beginning to worry. I am beginning to worry.
It's sinking in. Yeah.
It's sinking in. And I'm beginning to worry about, where the hell am I going to get the money to be able to continue to maintain my house and, keep the food on the table and all the things. By then I had divorced my first husband as well. So I was single parenting. And so in that state of worry, I did my first crystal healing class. 3 people showed up. And
this was your business. This was your business that you were.
This was my new business, right? Yeah, 3 people showed up. And the total amount of money did not actually cover probably the gas or the babysitter for that night.
Yeah.
And so now the worry is getting even more increased. I come home from this class And my babysitter had put the popcorn in the microwave upside down and burned a hole right through the microwave.
There we go.
And the next day I'm out mowing the lawn. A bolt falls off the lawnmower and I run over it and destroy my lawnmower. And then the day after that, I get a call that in order for my car to pass inspection, I need 4 new tires. And I realize in this moment that the worry
is just drawing that
was creating catastrophe after catastrophe after catastrophe, and like was a self-fulfilling thing. So worry, when I work with people, I use my vision. I can see worry as like a cloak that looks like a dusty, musty, smelly old army blanket that's literally wrapped around whatever you're worrying about. So worry is one thing that we do that we need to actually wake up from worry and really recognize how worry is causing wealth to run far away from us, right? Because why would it want to be around that kind of vibration?
If somebody has that, do you have, because I know you have all your tools and your tricks and your things and your energetic work. Is there something you do or something you could teach us really fast to?
Yeah. Well, this actually happened in 2016 and led to the rite of passage with my son and led to a lot of the disintegration of what wasn't working anymore so that a new, more solid foundation could be built and a rebirth could happen. And so one of the things that I did at this talk that I did in I can't remember, San Diego maybe, or Arizona, somewhere out west, I took the women in the room through this process where I invited them to visualize the worry. And so I would invite anyone who's listening to visualize this as a dark, smelly, musty, moist, disgusting, rotting army blanket that's wrapped around you, or it's wrapped around your business, or it's wrapped around money, or it's wrapped around, the offers that you're making. If you have an offer that you're making, but you're worried that people aren't going to take your offer, well, that's what you're packaging your offer in. And so I'd just love to have you invoke the power of your imagination to see, where have you wrapped this worry? Where have you wrapped this worry? Have you wrapped it around your talk? Oh, I'm worried if I do this talk, nobody is going to like it. Or I'm worried if I make this offer that people will be upset or insulted or won't buy. Or I'm worried that my business is never going to make money. Or I'm worried that I'm going to run out of credit, or whatever it is that you're worried about. Just find one thing where this is wrapped and begin to use the bright, shining light of your awareness, and focus that bright, shining light of your awareness like a unicorn horn, and begin to use that unicorn horn like a laser to slice right through this cocoon, this mummy wrapping, because we often get worry from our mummy. Our mummies pass it down to us,
sure.
Right? So there's a lot of ancestral mummy worry that's going on. So just see yourself like just slicing through this and opening up this these mummy wrappings and removing them. And when you remove them, you get to choose what you'd like to do with them. They could go into the garbage. They could go into the sun. They could go into a volcano. Whatever you'd like to do, they could be buried. What would you like to do with the mummy wrappings? Because we want to transmute them and dispose of them. And simultaneously, I'd like you to look at what it was that you were worried about from eyes of wonder. So instead of looking at your offer as something that you're worried about, look at your offer and say, I wonder, who's going to become my next client?
Nice.
I wonder what conversation I'm going to have that's going to lead to a money exchange. I wonder what's going to come out of the blue that I didn't even expect that will lead me to my next most amazing client. Right? Yeah. So wonder and being in a state of awe and wonder is one of the ways that we welcome wealth.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, that was, I could not have scripted that any better. That was because I was going to ask you, I was going to say, okay, here's how you take off. And now how do you get people to be more embodied or to step in more? So wonder, is there any other, like, let me back up. Your sense of self, the curiosity of you were badass, you could sell, and then boom, $7.
Mm.
Did you ever have, Anjel, like, what is wrong here? Like, did you ever, because I know you made a lot of big investments in coaching, like you really were all about fixing it. And what were the lessons? Because I think sometimes we look outside of our, that expert will tell me, or that program will give it to me. So talk about how you have so much sovereignty today.
Yeah, well, you used the magic word right there, Therese. The magic word that you used was fix it.
Yes.
Okay. In December of 2016, when I made the decision that my business was going to not, either it was going to support me or, I needed to have another vision.
Yeah.
I also became exceptionally clear because I came from a family where there was addiction and there was abuse and there was a lot of like the toxic soil of abuse is where I was, emerged out of. And part of emerging out of the toxic soil of abuse is you become either abusing yourself, you either become an abuser or you become a self-abuser.
Right.
Or you become the person who's trying to fix it all. And I became clear at the end of 2016 that I was done fixing. I was complete with fixing.
Wow.
And I was also complete with figuring it out. And I made the conscious choice that I was going to begin to figure in what was going to make me feel whole, right? And well. And so, wealth, the word wealth, the beginning of the word wealth is well, it's rooted in wellness. It's rooted in wholeness. It's rooted in this idea of we're not figuring out how to fix anything. We're figuring in what will allow us to thrive and be generative. And that ability to be generative is actually one of our greatest pieces of wealth that we have is our ability to be generative. And our ability to be generative requires boundary, requires the exercising of the no muscle.
Right. How though, when I think of you, I use the word sovereign, but you are a woman who follows your guidance, even if it seems cray, even if on paper people are like, what the fuck is she doing now?
Exactly. Sometimes I wonder too. But I wonder. Wonder. There's
wonder. But instead of figure it out, like to figure in, how do you help people strengthen the, what you know? Because I think a lot of, we're habituated, like I have to get an expert. I need to ask so-and-so. We habitually wander around looking for somebody else to provide for what we need inside. So is that like a magical unicorn thing that you just have that knowing, or did you have to strengthen that muscle?
I definitely had to strengthen that muscle, but I just want to take a second because I want to really make a distinction about how we approach working with others.
Okay.
So I do believe that if we are here on the planet with a calling to serve, that there are people that we are meant to serve. And those people are coming to us and we are going to them, and the connection gets made, and there's an exchange of energy and an investment made. And that's how business is happening, right? That's business. I think the important thing to become discerning about is, am I seeking from a place of desperation?
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Am I seeking for the fix? And if you think about it, in addiction, they call it the fix, right? And so part of the work of sovereignty, of following your own guidance, is very much learning to discern, am I coming from, what is the frequency that I'm coming from?
Nice.
Am I coming at this, whatever this is, whatever this challenge is, am I coming at it from a vibration of desperation? Or am I coming at it from a vibration of, I don't want to use the word resignation, but that's the one word that's coming to me right now. And sometimes we have to resign. We have to resign ourselves to the fact that that's not where our expertise lies.
Absolutely. Right. It's strategic to get the additional support.
Correct.
In that area. Right. But it's not, oh, thank God that she'll save me. He'll save me. I'll never have to worry again. So I love where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so that's kind of to preface this sovereignty piece. And I think for me, the sovereignty piece is, the first time I had the spiritual awakening, I literally jumped off the ledge. I knew I was going to die if I stayed with the real estate guys any longer. I literally,
it was very visceral. Yeah. Okay.
I knew I was going to die. And there, I didn't know what I didn't know back then. Right. So in retrospect, I can see, oh, there was the whisper way back there. And there was the knock, and there was the 2x4. And I had to get to the place where the Mack truck was coming down the road and about to hit me before I was able to say, I have to go. Right. Yeah. And I think part of that is because I came from the toxic soil of abuse. One of the things that we learn and are conditioned to is to be able to take it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? How much can I take? If we lean into taking it rather than lean back and say, whoa, this is abuse, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so for me, it was originally a leap, and then it became, I got too far down the road of experiencing synchronicity, of experiencing miraculous changes, of experiencing out of the blue connections and manifestations that weren't even in my imagination. People say, well, what's your goals? I don't have any goals. I have to have a vision, right? If the vision comes, then I'll say yes to the vision. And then the goals precipitate out from the vision naturally, right? But if I don't have vision, then I'm just going to, go outside and play.
But but it's a self-trust thing.
And pray.
You know the process now, right?
Yes. And I have to play and pray. Those are the two things that are my go-tos. Play and pray. And the most potent prayer I've discovered is help.
Clean, easy, nice. Yeah. I love that. Well, as we wrap up, you have some principles about wealth, and one of them was to not worry or stop worrying. Or do you want to just quickly run through the rest?
Yeah. So there's 5 ways that we ward off wealth. Okay. One is worry. The second is withdrawing. And what happens when we withdraw, it's as an example, we go to an event, right? Let's say we are at a live event, or we're listening to a podcast, or we're watching a Zoom thing or whatever. And there's somebody there and we're like, oh my God, what she just said. Oh my God, I feel so activated and ready. And I want to move forward with my dreams. And then we shut it off, or we go back on the plane, or we go home and we shut the doors and we pull our energy back.
Okay.
Right? When you withdraw your energy, you're warding off wealth. You are closing the doors to the opportunity. We must collaborate and co-create with the universe. So withdrawal is one. Waffling, unable to make a decision.
Oh, gosh,
so I'll use an event example again. Let's say you're at a live event and somebody has a $10,000 offer to help you with your entrepreneurship. And they make the offer and you're all excited and you say, oh my God, I can see that this will help me.
Yes.
And then you say, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom. You're in the bathroom. Your friend texts you and says, hey, you know that Caribbean vacation that we've been talking about? It's on sale right now for $10,000. Do you want to go on this Caribbean vacation with me or Mediterranean vacation with me? And now you have your entrepreneurship or the cruise ship or the entrepreneurship or the cruise ship. And you can't make a freaking decision and both ships sail. So waffling is one of the ways that we ward off wealth. And the other two are whining. Generally over wine.
Yep.
And when we whine over wine, what's happening when we're whining over wine is we often either have one or two, or sometimes a whole group of people who will collude with our whining.
Support us. Absolutely.
Yes. And so what they're doing is they're adding all of their energy to your complaint system and your whining. And so what you're energizing, not only yourself with your own words, and is there a place for having conversations about what's not working? Absolutely. That's where you invest to work with somebody to create that space where you can talk about what's not working. That's different than whining. Whining is, just basically bitching and moaning about what's not working in your life and having an audience for it. And when you're whining over wine, the wine also decreases your consciousness. So the wine itself decreases your consciousness, in addition to creating this, container of consciousness that is lowered and is infusing and energizing what you don't want. And then the last one is waiting on. And this looks like two different things. It could look like waiting on your handsome prince to come and rescue you. Or it could look like you being Cinderella and waiting on all of your stepsisters, taking care of all of them. This is the behavior that we see in online groups where there's and I will raise my hand as somebody who's definitely played the waiting on game, where you're taking care of everybody else's problems and ignoring your own. Yeah. So those are the 5 ways that we ward off wealth.
Wow. And I know that you have a free gift that is going to be super powerful. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So we have a quiz called the Wealth Readiness Quiz. And it's really quick. It's like 7 or 8 questions. And what it will do is it will give you a result that will let you know what your level of readiness is to welcome wealth into your life. And wealth is the sum total of all of the resources that we have available to us: our time, our health, our imagination, the energy exchange piece, which is the money piece, and then the fun that we have with our friends and family. And so the Wealth Readiness Quiz will give you a scored result as to how much readiness is in you to welcome your own wealthy life by design.
Oh my gosh. So the links to that are going to be in the show notes wherever you're watching this. This has been so yummy. I love your heart. I love listening to you. And so if there's just kind of tune is there anything like, one last, I got to tell you this, anything else that wants to be said?
Yeah. So I said one of the most potent prayers that we have is help. One of my other most potent and favorite prayers, which also helps us to welcome wealth, is never let me lose my sense of awe and wonder.
Oh,
yeah.
That is beautiful.
So I want to say it's been awesome and wonderful to spend this time with you today, Therese. What a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. I told you would love this episode. So I'm hoping that you allow this, if you're listening and watching, to fill you. Listen to it again. Send it on to a friend, because these teachings need to be out there. This is stuff that we all need to hear. I know I benefited. So I was doing that. I was getting all my worry stuff like, oh, hell no. I was chopping along with y'all. So thank you so much for listening. Peace and blessings. Bye now.
Hey, this is Therese, and I'm so excited that you were with us today for another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. You know, if you are inspired to get to that brilliant place, if you heard some wisdom today that made you think, yeah, I need some help in that area, I would encourage you to have a conversation with me. Super simple. You just go to thereseskelly.com/let's connect. It's a no charge, no pressure conversation. And if I can support you to clear the blocks, to really step into that brilliance, oh my gosh, it would be a delight. And I'll be honest with you, we'll just have a great conversation and see where we can take it. Peace and blessings. Bye.